Hey there, Jed Coburn is here with the Exercise Physiology Show. This is episode number 37. Why do I make these shows? Because I'm an exercise physiologist and there's the steering wheel, because I make them in a car, or in my car. I fit them in my crazy busy day. We all have crazy busy days, and I'm a former fat kid. So I figure I can bring that to the table also. And there's a bunch of junk on the internet, and I feel like I'm a filter for all of that junk. Ask me any questions, I'll figure it out. I'll give you the best answer according to my education, my background, and my opinion, right? Because we all got them. So yeah, right? Today I have a few different things we'll talk about. We'll actually talk about some science of what some numbers mean, okay? Kathy Gardner has asked me to bring some numbers to the table and figure out what they mean, or, you know, explain what they mean. So she has a scale that tells her a bunch of different numbers. So it basically sounds like body fat percentage, BMI, and then it may give her some like bone density numbers. Not necessarily density, but bone weight numbers. You can't really get a true bone density unless you go to get some specialized testing from, you know, from doctors. But those numbers basically, like when you're testing your body fat, right? It's called bioelectrical impedance. It tests, it basically sends safe little electrical pulses through the lower half of your body, or, you know, if it can reach all the way up. Nobody really knows, but electrical pulses flow faster through water, and we know that. So the more water you have, the more fat you have, and the more muscle you have, right? All that fun stuff. The less muscle you'll have, the faster those pulses go through your body, right? So if you have less muscle, it's going to be, you know, like a high vibration. It's going to be high electrical pulses. It has a few different mathematical equations built into it that it has to go through, and then it kind of spits out some numbers. So, you know, I mean, it's very safe, but how accurate is it? It just depends. I mean, if you carry more muscle, then the thing's gonna kind of tend to give you an inaccurate result. Like for me, my body fat tends to be, with that machine, I have just a handheld one, and it gives me all, you know, between 10%, 9%, sometimes it says 12%. I kind of know by my measurements, and then just kind of, you can just, you know, pinch, right? If you can pinch some fat, you kind of just know. The other thing I would say is when it says bone, you know, it tells you your bone weight. I don't think it's entirely accurate at the same time. The only way you're going to know is if you get specialized testing. You go to the doctor, ask for like a bone density test. They can, you know, do some x-ray. They can do like a hydrostatic weighing. You know, you go under the water, and that gives you, the only part about hydrostatic weighing is you have to go underwater and let your breath all the way out, and some people have a hard time doing that. But that's almost the truest way to get your body fat, your weight, you know, density, everything. But what's the point? What would be your outcome when you can do the stuff at home? When you can, you know, put on your clothes and feel like that, you know, I mean, you're gonna know if you're a size 12 or a size 18 or a size 10 or a size 8, 6, whatever it is. You're gonna know just by that if you're doing something right. Not necessarily right, if you're on the right track, okay? If you're following some healthy trends, but I wouldn't worry. I wouldn't get caught up too much into those numbers. Physical weight, we've talked about that many times. like other ones would be like systolic and diastolic pressure, like your blood pressure. When you go to the doctor, you go to, you're like, oh my gosh, my blood pressure is high. What does that mean? Well, systolic pressure is the top number, and that is the amount of pressure that are in your arteries at that moment. And then the bottom number is diastolic pressure, and that is the pressure that is in between your heartbeat, right? In between the heartbeat, that's the pressure that's in your arteries at that moment, okay? So obviously the top number is going to be higher, the bottom number is going to be lower. 120 over 80 or 110 over 70. It depends where you look nowadays for averages, but I have something called ventricular hypertrophy. So my systolic is always higher. So what that means for me is that my ventricle, like your heart, it has 4 chambers. Top ones are atria. Atria is 1, atrias. Bottom 2 are the ventricles. My ventricles are stronger because I have this weird sense of I don't know if it's called a sense, but I can push myself past where most people have to stop. Like, I can probably push myself to exhaustion and pass out. I don't know why, I just can. So that gets me to a level of intensity that I can sustain for longer periods of time, and my heart has had to adapt to it. That's what that means. Now, do I have to be careful with that later in life? Absolutely. But the other one might be like H1C or HA1C, the hemoglobin, the A1C test for diabetes. What that is, right, if anybody's ever explained that to you, so you have red blood cells, and hemoglobin, is in those, and if you have uncontrolled sugar, it attaches to those, and then it just messes with your body's chemistry. So if you're intaking a whole bunch of sugar, it basically, your body just starts to produce insulin without even thinking about it, and then it has to, then damage happens, right? So if you're really going nuts on the sugar, your A1C count, right? You take that test, it gives the docs or whoever's testing it a good idea of what it looks like and how well you've controlled or not controlled your blood sugar for the past 3 months. And it's pretty dang accurate, right? You just got to be careful of that sugar intake. High A1C for too long can do some damage, and then you're in the diabetes range, and then you're in the unhealthy movement. It goes right to your bloodstream. You're always having to counteract with insulin, and then your pancreas gets taxed, if you will, or damaged. And then from there, your brain, your gut, your gut has a lot of neurotransmitters in it, more than you'd think, right? That's why people are taking probiotics nowadays, because there's a lot of stuff in food. That's another topic, but so sugar in bloodstream is hemoglobin A1C or HA1C. It's the test that tells you how much you should have in your bloodstream. So people who don't have diabetes, it's 5 to 7% or 4 to 6%, depending on where you look, and you can really go nuts on it. Some people, the extremes, 15%. It's just like, how do you get to that point? But I understand physiologically that there's more to it, right? And then mentally there's more to it. I think that's where I separate myself from a lot of people in the field of health and fitness, is if you see an overweight person, if you see a really skinny person, if you want to skinny, that's why I say skinny. If you see a really thin person, there's more to it than just not wanting to eat healthy or not not wanting to exercise. There's way more to it than just physical health. There's a mental health component, and I'm not saying mental illness, because we need to break that stigma of mental illness. But it comes down to mental health, right? What has happened in your life that got you to this point? And you can blame it a little, right? You can blame it a little, and then you have to get over it. And I'm not saying this is easy, and I'm not saying I'm outside of any of this, because I'm right there with you. There's daily struggle, there's monthly struggle, there's annual struggle, right? There's yearly. But there's the mental health component to it all. You didn't get to this point where you were because you didn't want to, right? You didn't get to this point where you are right now because you love sitting on the couch and being all alone and doing nothing. Or you're, working so many hours trying to provide, and in your head you're, I just got to prioritize way more things, and you haven't gotten there yet, right? You haven't put exercise on that bare minimum list of, like you put on clothes. You haven't put exercise as important as putting on clothes every day. So I think that's where it starts. Those physiological numbers, that's science. That's where it's at. But there's more to it than just the physical part of science. There's psychological, right? There's everything in your mind. And I think that is where, at least in today's world, we're starting to catch up to it. But I think that's where we're behind, right? Even a completely healthy person has a mental health, okay? So that's what I challenge you today, is to think about that. How is your mental health doing? How is your belief in yourself? How are you speaking about yourself and to other people? Let's throw a number out there today. Since we're talking numbers, 0 to 10, how do you rate your mental health? Okay, I would rate mine today, and I'll give you two numbers. Today, I would rate it an 8, which I'm pretty pleased with that. And then on average, I would rate it a 9. I hate, as far as like 10s and 0s, those are extremes. Like, I'm not extreme. I'm pretty close to it, but not perfect. Nobody's perfect. That's my opinion. So today, let me know. Let me know how, what your mental health looks like for today, and then what is your average number. I'd love to hear from you. If you're willing to change from the neck up, you will change from the neck down. Believe in yourself. And if you made it this far in the video, you've probably seen all of my posts for the gym, right? YGT is You Got This. I'm working on the logo today. I'm working on it all. Please help me with that dream, because it's not only me, right? It's not only me, my dream. It's the dreams of other people that they need this gym to believe in themselves. They do. Have a great day.